Right, we are here with my buddy. I can call you a buddy now. We've spoken more than twice, so I think that makes us friends. No,
Uh,
associates, well wishers.
I
In
think
that
I
you
think
don't
it's
wish
fair to
me
say
anyhow.
that we're buddies when we talk. But if you drop my name in the conversation, it's definitely name dropping.
Well, you can tell if someone's a good buddy if they'd help you hide a body, which I think you would. If I had to call you up in the middle of the night and say, PJ, no questions, need to hide a body, you'd be like, yeah, okay. I think that's what you would do.
No, well, that's true. That is what I would do. But I mean, in fairness, I would do that for anyone. I just like hiding bodies.
You do. Literally. The reason for this video is because PJ is going to be an absolute plonker and do a Kickstarter. And seeing as I've just successfully run a Kickstarter, he wants to ask me loads of questions about Kickstarter.
Yes. Well, let me put it like this. I'm very much a firm believer in measure 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 times before thinking, should I cut this? Measure again 7 or 8 or 9 times, then go, I'll probably not cut this. I just leave it. So that's where I am. So
No, that's
I want
fine.
to. I did a few years ago a kind of how can I make Kickstarter work for me? Because I think there's a weirdness about whether pros should do. If you're a professional comic creator, should you be allowed to do a Kickstarter?
Yes.
You know, I, there's
No,
a
yes.
certain amount of kind of hubris or something, or the worry that there's hubris there. I don't know.
Bruce, you're even though you're a professional artist, and regardless if you are under a contract with a publisher, you make your living through art, and you can sell that however you want. So no hubris. Ignore that. So that's cut
Yeah,
that straight out of the way.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I don't feel like I need to ask permission to do it, but I do feel I want to be careful. I think in what I'm thinking of and what I'm trying to do. But the other thing is, like a few years ago, what I was trying to think of is how can I do a Kickstarter so that it isn't just um, vanity press. I mean, which is to say, I get to write and draw something and produce a book. I've paid for it. I mean, Kickstarters help find an audience, but it's not necessarily paid for itself. So it'd be very easy to do that. And I think I don't want. This isn't speaking for anyone but me, but when I was in part-time employee, I could easily have done something like that. I mean, my part-time employee happened before Kickstarter did, but it would have been a good fun thing to do, to create my own books and Kickstarter those, because I didn't need to worry about making a living from doing those books. All I needed to do was make enough money that the books didn't lose so much money. I mean, I've done that. I've printed up 1,000 copies of a comic book and sold 12, you know.
And you need me selling them at a Comic Con for you.
Well, that's the thing. It's hard. I'm in Northern Ireland, so at the point when I did that, which would have been 90, I don't know, 99 or something, there weren't any comic conventions in Northern Ireland. You've had to shift your butt over to England, which means getting in a car and transporting. It's suddenly the scale of what you're trying to do is very, very different. So Kickstarter, I think, kind of offers you an alternative to doing that. And I'm in a kind of, I mean, it's odd, I think, because I'm in Northern Ireland, which means we're still in this, the NI protocol applies, which means it's actually easier for me to sell to Europe than it might be for you to sell to Europe, man. It might be easier for me to ship to Europe and ship to England, whereas it might be more difficult for you to ship to England or ship to Europe, I think. I don't
There are
know.
ways around that,
Yes, yes. But yeah,
which we can discuss later on. But
yeah. Well,
I think
here, I think I can just take a parcel to the post office and send it, no matter where it's going. It'll arrive there in dog time, because post is mental nowadays. But I don't. There's no forms to fill in. I don't think there's none of that has to happen. I think that you do sometimes, or at least some people think there is. I don't know. I don't know.
And again, these are the T's and C's that we will go through with like the magic behind the Kickstarter and
Okay.
how you get around stuff like this, because we will discuss it, right. But let's get let's talk about the elephant in the room with regards to Kickstarter. I mean, me personally, this is just my opinion. I do not care if you are a professional artist or even a publisher putting your books on Kickstarter, purely because don't get me wrong, it's a crowdfunding service, which I get, and it's there to help creators, visualize and get their books out there. But at its core, it is a pre-ordering service. It's a way
Hmm.
to reach a bigger audience and get those books to them through a direct market, rather than to have to go through a publisher or a distributor, that kind of thing. So don't have a problem with creators or publishers doing that. I think it's all part of the process. Everyone's does it. I know every now and then you'll see on Twitter that people will throw their toys out of a pram because a publisher's doing a Kickstarter. Publishers have been doing
I
it
know that.
since its inception, so it's like
Yeah,
there's no difference. So
yeah, I know. I think there's a certain feeling that the Keanu Reeves Berserk Kickstarter, I think was like, that's going to be massive. They would have known that was going to be massive before they did that Kickstarter. There was no need to do that Kickstarter, and I think the concern is that it sucks all the air out of the room. It's sort of a thing as big as that kind of, but I actually, maybe it brings a new audience into Kickstarter. It brings
that's.
different people into Kickstarter, and it brings,
But they won't necessarily buy comics. I've seen the Keanu Reeves one; they'll like it and hopefully look at other stuff. And the fact that they've probably never been on the Kickstarter platform before,
yeah,
now they will get recommended other comics, and they go, "Well, I like that
yeah,
one." So it's if any, this is the way I see it: is like if something is drawing attention in a good, positive way to the platform and helping spread the word of comics, it's only a good thing.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's that's my
There's, I think
people
there's
could disagree with me.
always been a consensus in the publish in the the direct market shops that, like, the better Marvel and DC do in your store, the better chance there is for the smaller press publishers as well. Like, if you can't sell Marvel and DC comics, you're never going to sell that fourth or fifth tier publisher stuff, or those self-published things. So that's kind of the sign of the health of the
You
market,
you
really.
have to have those core books. I remember I was very fortunate to be in a room with Dan DiDio, and he was talking about DC when he was obviously the head of them, and he was saying, if we get Batman and Superman right, and they are selling at the levels that they're meant to, that means we can take risks on other books, like Flintstones, Snagglepuss, that kind of thing, which we could not do if the top tier books were selling gangbusters. So again, the way I apply that to Kickstarter, if you're getting people that are backing the Keanu Reeves one, and a lot of the time these people that are backing it are not going to be your regular comics audience anyway. They're not
Mm,
there for you, so they're not taking away your money. And
yeah,
that's not your money. That's the customer's money, and
yeah,
the
yeah.
customer has the
It's
right to put
spend.
some of their money on whatever they want. So I will have people come to my Comic Con table, and they'll look at the books and go, "It's not for me." And you look at them and go, "Well, my comics are awesome. What do you mean they're not?" But that's the whole thing. You need to kind of get your head
Yeah.
around. It's like not everyone that goes on that platform is your customer. Everyone
Not
likes different
everyone can
things.
handle the good shit.
There you go. There you go. And my comics are shit. But yeah,
The good shit.
so that's
Yeah.
Kickstarter as much like anyone should use it. Everyone can use it if it's positivity in comics. It's for me, it's a good thing. Okay, so you're going to do a book. Like let's start this from scratch. So you are adamant that you are going to kickstart a book. Where are we starting? How far into
Well,
this comic are you? When are you planning to do it? And let's
okay.
start the ball rolling now.
So like there are things I wouldn't kickstart a book unless it was done. Like that to me, fundamentally, the book needs to be finished, right? So I would beaver away on it while I'm doing other things, and
You've already
get
won.
a
You've already won by saying that. You've won me over. That's no, but that is the one thing is like, and you okay. If you don't know who PJ is, you're living on a rock. PJ is an amazing artist. He's worked for 2000 AD for years. He's doing stuff for DC, that kind of thing. You have a big following. Like you have a following.
I have a following.
You have a following. Okay, right. Now, if a professional is saying that he wants to have that book finished before he kickstarts it, that shows you that you need to have your book finished before you do your Kickstarters, even if you are just starting out. Because the problem with Kickstarters, and I fell flat at this when I did my first one a few years ago, like 7 years ago, is I thought, no, I was bigger than I was. I thought I had a better following than I did. And I thought because I already had the two first issues ready to go, I could use them to fund the third one and I couldn't. I fell flat on my face. So the fact that
Mm,
you've already got that mentality is like, I need that book like 95, 100% done, even before I press launch. That is the right way to do it. So
mm.
continue.
Okay. So the other thing is that, I mean, this is purely based. I have a good following on Twitter. I have about 14, maybe 15,000 followers on Twitter. But here's the thing, Matt. I know with that number of followers, in any one time, if I have, say, I don't know, a little one-page comic or something that I want people to like, I mean, there's no point. I've always said this about comics. There's no point. To me, comics are about two things. They're about making a comic. They're about getting people to read it. Like, without people reading it, it might be nice to do and it's fun to do, but there's a lot of single person activities that are like that as well. That
No point
that
having it if no one is reading it, and that is half the
yeah,
battle
yeah.
of making a comic.
So you know, and I mean, I don't mind there'd be feedback and stuff. That's great. But what I find is that even with 14, 15,000 followers, I can expect like hard pushing, push. Maybe 100 people will like it, you know, or you know, of that 100, maybe 10 will retweet it. You know, so it's I understand that there's like a funnel, and the funnel starts with 15,000, but very quickly drops down to like 20 people that are retweeting it. And how hard is it to hit the retweet button on something you like? It's, you
And
know,
we will talk about this because I've changed my mental feelings about how the retweet button and stuff like that works. So we'll come back to that. But you're absolutely right. Yeah, like you even it doesn't matter how big your audience is, you're not going to get that full 14,000 audience to back
no,
your book. It
no,
it just
no.
it just simply doesn't work, and that's purely because algorithms are funny things. Just because you sent a tweet doesn't mean that 14,000 people are going to see that tweet.
No.
And that's the kind of how we think about Twitter and Instagram and even YouTube. And that's not how it works. Because and this is why when you do a Kickstarter, pardon my French, but I was going to swear. I'm not going to swear on my own channel. Like you need to tweet about it twice a day. Like in the morning
Yeah.
for the UK audience, and then in the early evening for the American audience, and then late in the evening, if you want to do it for a third time for the later
If
for like
I
the
if
LA crowd.
I if I if I really want people to see something, I'll retweet every 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason for that is because the algorithm doesn't show everyone everything. And I even have like mutual friends of ours that have said to me, "I didn't know you had a YouTube channel." And I
Yeah,
tweet about my YouTube channel ad nauseum. So that just shows you, even someone that annoys people with tweets and retweets, not everyone is still seeing it. And the way I was talking to this at the MCM the other week, I was talking to a guy. I was like, if people are not retweeting your stuff, then they're not supporting you, and that's fine. If they're seeing it and not hitting it, it's like you said, like how hard does it hit the retweet button? It's not hard
yeah,
at all. It's an easy thing to do, and it's spreading. And if people are not doing that, that's up to them. But me personally, I will retweet and tweet. And if I am annoying people, there is a mute button right there.
yeah.
Press the mute button. I don't care. I honestly don't care
We
because
it's
they're
it's
not
like
helping me pay for this comic. I'm paying for this comic with the
yeah.
support of the people out there that want to support me. So I will do whatever I need to do to
It's
get that
like
book
it's
funded.
like we have a coliseum, and I have a coliseum filled with 15,000 people, and right in the center of it, I'm stood up there with my little tiny megaphone. But they're all having individual conversations with each other, and their attention is on other things, and I go, "Hey, look at my thing!" and it goes into that crowd. Some people turn around, some people are doing things, and so yeah. Now other people might have a much smaller coliseum, but maybe they're more focused. And I kind of feel like a mailing list is like that. A mailing list is much more focused. It's much more. It might be much smaller. It might be 50 people in that mailing list, but there's a good chance they'll all at least glance at what you're saying. Whereas Twitter, it goes out into the void a little bit.
The problem with Twitter is, and it's the same as subscribers on YouTube and followers on Instagram, is the number of people following you and subscribe to you is a vanity metric. The core audience, the people that you've got, is going to be much smaller. I say it's around 10% of what your following is.
Hmm.
So, like I had on my Kickstarter, I had 370 backers, which is absolutely amazing for me. I'm over the
Hmm.
moon with that. And I've got 4,000 followers on Twitter. So that's less than 10%. And the good thing about Kickstarter is you need to kind of love the data that it gives you. Only 22% of the people that backed my book came via Twitter.
Yeah.
So that shows that, I mean, some came through Twitter through other routes, but even if it was like 40%, the majority of the people that backed my Kickstarter came from the actual platform itself.
Yeah.
And this is how so I think people rely on Twitter too much. It's great, don't get me wrong. If you've got a massive following, you can get big names to retweet it, which is lovely. But you kind of need to start building that community on Kickstarter, and you
Hmm.
do that by people that you have backed before. Just asking them questions. How did you do this? How do you do that? And then when you do launch your campaign, do updates. I mean, not like every single day, but every 3 days do an update. And if people comment and like, respond to them because it shows the Kickstarter algorithm that you're putting love back into that platform.
Yeah.
It shows they're engaging. So, yeah, no, that's how I would start. There he is again. Yeah, sorry, but
There you go.
I honestly thought it was only if but I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. Anyway,
Just
so
I
we
think I think the really important thing there, Matt, is that I was right.
absolutely. And I see this is the thing, right? There's nothing
I
wrong with
told Matt
admitting you're wrong.
before the timer would run out in an hour, and he went, "Not when there's only two people." And I went, "I'm pretty sure this is what's going to happen, but okay, I'll stand corrected."
And just for people that are watching, like this has only been going for 15 minutes, so it shows you how much time PJ was rabbiting on before we actually hit the record button. So what could you do? You know, six of one, half dozen the other. But
He knew what you were getting.
I do. I knew what I was getting. But that's the thing. It's with regards to Kickstarter, you know, like I think you need to be active on the platform to show
So what does
people that you
active
do.
on the platform mean before you've started your own Kickstarter? So let's say you intend to do a Kickstarter and you want in some way to get that, get your, like, if, for example, if I want to be on Twitter, it's easy. I just go on Twitter and start posting nonsense, and
What you
eventually
do.
I build kind of either a fan base from artwork, or I am so outrageously funny people just follow me anyway, or I say something terrible, I don't know,
Mhm.
and people go, "Oh, it can't be right."
Right.
And so, but how do you do something like that? I mean, to me, initially, I kind of went, well, I can't honestly put my hand on heart and say I need people to back a Kickstarter before I've backed any Kickstarters. So I've backed a few Kickstarters over the years, just to get a feel for that, and just to make sure I'm not an
Mm.
unknown on that platform, just so whenever I do a Kickstarter eventually, it doesn't say this guy's never backed any other Kickstarters. I want to make sure I backed some, you
That
know.
and that to me, I think that's very important because when I look at Kickstarter, if I see that someone's not backed any and run like 8, I'm like, okay, well, you're not really giving anything back, are you, dude? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, you know, make a bit of a. But that's a great way to start it. The next thing I would say to show Kickstarter that you're serious about it, and this will help you in the long run, is get your Kickstarter page up on there as soon as you can. It doesn't need to go live, but just get
Mm,
it on there and prepared, because then what you can start doing is, as well as on Twitter and stuff, like sharing artwork about it, say, oh, this is coming soon, and you're drip feeding that excitement, you know 1 to 2 months before it even goes live. But you can get people to subscribe to your page to get notified when it goes live, because that also shows the algorithm that,
yeah. You're
oh, there's some
building.
people there's some people that are going to like this, so we might want to put this, when it goes as one of our product, one of our projects that we like, that kind of thing. And that's the thing, it's priming that engine months before it goes live. Like
Yeah.
Voodoo Cowboy, it took a while to get ready, but for like 6 months, I was like, it's coming soon. It's coming soon. There's a page from it. It's these colors, is our juniors art, that kind of thing. And then it was like, it's coming to Kickstarter. Did a little like 30-second trailer for it on Twitter, just to get people going. Put a link into the
Yeah.
the Kickstarter so they could sign up for it. And then, I mean, I honestly, I mean, my goal wasn't huge, but I still thought it would take 24 to 40 hours to hit that target. But
Mm,
we did it in 3 hours, and I was absolutely mind blown by that. And this is one of the other things, is with regards to the your goal. Put in what you need, not what you want.
mm,
To me, that's key. And the reason for this is, like, yeah, if you're using it to try and fund the art and the colors, that kind of thing, it's going to be a bit more of an uphill struggle, because we all see it every day on Twitter. People like scurrying around at the end. Oh, can you retweet this? Because, like, we're like £500, short of our deadline, that kind of thing. My goal was £500 because I paid for the art. I paid our junior for the artwork. I paid D for the colors. And the reason why I wanted £500 was, this is the way my silly mind works, is out of that £500, it would pay for the rewards for the people that would back the Kickstarter. The money that was left would be around about £150 profit. And with that, I can print 100 books. And then
mm.
MCM was after the campaign would be the next month. So I could take those 100 books. And I'm not being egotistical. I know how many comics I can sell. I know that I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
sell those 100 books that haven't cost me a penny, and I can sell them
Yeah.
for £3 each. And that means I've made 300. So I've
Yeah.
doubled my money, and then you reinvest that back into making comics. But how it worked is, we got just under 4 grand,
Yeah.
and that means not only could I do a nice little print run of Voodoo Cowboy, it paid for my print run of all the comics that I needed for the Comic Con, and I sold 378 comics. So times that by 3, it's nearly a grand plus the extra that I had left over from the Kickstarter. Don't get me wrong, it's not enough to fund a whole comic,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
takes the sting out of having to
Yeah.
upfront pay the cost for art. So, and that's how I want it. It's like, I've always been like a self-funding machine, because art should never work for free, which I've said on many occasions. So like that's my goal, is like, my priorities have changed because we're having a baby and that kind of thing. So I can't self-fund my comics like I used to, and I need to find another way to subsidize that. And that's why
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
kind
I
of
mean,
dipped
you
my
can
toe
seed
back
them
into
with,
Kickstarter.
yeah, start small and building that fund up. Yeah, I mean, my ultimate goal was to allow Kickstarter. So this when I was first looking at it a few years ago, and I was looking at books that would be kind of 64-page small graphic novels, done in commando style kind of graphic novels, and which actually 64 pages sounds like a lot, but at that physical size, it's not that hard, not that many pages. They're equivalent of about 16 to 20 pages of normal comics. And I thought, well, if I can make that work and I can do one, then another, and then another, by the time you get to a third or fourth one, they're not only self-funding, but they're actually an income. And if you can manage to get them to that stage, you're doing well. Because I get paid to work, I get paid to draw. So anytime I'm not drawing paid work, I'm losing money. So I've got to be really careful.
That's a
This is not,
freelancer. Do you know what I mean? It was
yeah,
like last week we had a bank holiday, and that's why I put out tweets like everyone's going, "Oh, we've got 4 days off." Like, not if you're a freelancer. You're not. You're still
nope,
working.
nope, nope, nope,
You
nope.
don't work. You don't get paid. It is as simple as
Yeah.
that. That's why you guys have it a lot harder than me.
Yeah. So my new plan is to take to write and draw a anthology title, which would be about 20 pages with 4 pages cover and thing, which I can do. I can write a 4 or 5 page story and then draw a 4 or 5 page story in a few days, and then a month or 2 months do some work, and then do another one, and then a month or 2 months, and then do another one. So it's not terribly hard to build up the bank of material to do that and then take that to Kickstarter. So, but the question is that like unambitious? Because I kind of see a lot of very long books on Kickstarter now. You start to see lots of graphic novels, whereas I think you've done a couple of single issue things. I see graphic novels happening and people going full color, massive production values, and looking at them thinking, I don't know how. Like you're never going to make. Maybe you will. Maybe that the quality of that is. I mean, I just want to do a nice little black and white comic and make enough money. Eventually, make enough money that it'll pay for me to make a black and white comic. Maybe not that first time. Maybe that first time it'll pay enough to print the bloody thing. And so the way I've been costing it is kind of, well, I want 500 copies of it. I want five, no matter how many sell, I want 500. So that's my target. The print cost for 500. That's my final target. And then I want to, obviously I want to make more. And the more I want to make is essentially enough to pay me the page rate it would cost me to do it, but only so I could then pay myself to do the next thing and on.
I don't even know why we're having this conversation because you've got your head so screwed on. It's unbelievable. For someone that's so chaotic, you actually are quite a smart man, and I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. But no,
I
that is
always
the right.
surprise people
You know,
about that.
I know. But what I think you should be looking at is like if you can do 2 or 3 Kickstarters a year for like a single issue comic, whether it be
Yeah.
Commando style or full size style. What you do is you do one, you start, then you do a second one, then you grow on that audience. You'll lose a little bit, but you'll keep growing. You build onto it. But then once you've got like 4 or 5 issues under your belt, then you do a trade because
Yeah.
because the cost to print a trade is a lot less than it is to actually cost. So you'll make more, and
Yeah. Per
you're just
page,
building
you're,
on. Yeah. So my goal now is me. Okay, so I'm just going to circle it back to me. Um,
yeah.
is it no? But like
It is your YouTube
it
channel.
is my YouTube channel. But this is like the method to my madness is so I did Voodoo Cowboy in May. It done well, 370 odd backers. Brilliant. Really, really happy with that. Could be launching another one for a different comic next month. So hopefully some of those people will come over. Not all of them, because not everyone
Yeah.
will come
Yeah.
over. But I'm hopefully going to get more people that didn't didn't want to back Voodoo Cowboy because it wasn't their cup of tea, but might back this one. So I'm kind of building on. I'm losing some, but I'm building that audience. And then
Yeah.
2 months later, I'm going to be kickstarting a different comic as well. So I'm building all these 3 different types of audiences.
Yeah.
So once I've got like Voodoo Cowboy 2, people have like, well, I like Matt's comic that one, and I like that one. So he's doing issue 2 of that one, so I'll get 1 and 2. So you're kind of building, and like building that ready show. And that's how in my head I see this working. For me, other people it may work differently, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to build different pillars to hold the roof up.
Yeah. Yeah. How many pages would Voodoo Cowboy? And what was
24.
the cover price? 24. And the comic
24.
price was
£4. £4 on
four
Kickstarter.
quid. Okay, okay.
Which,
No, and that's a full color comic.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so like I will happily. I mean, I literally I did the finances on it the other day just in case for this. So I'm just going to go to my trusty to my phone here. So out of the £3,700 that we earned, there was around 7 or 8 people that dropped out. So I'd lost like a couple of £100 there because people just don't end up paying,
Yeah, yeah.
or whether like cards got cancelled, that kind of thing.
And then the new thing where banks have to verify on your phone or other device whether you've that nearly caught me. I funded the Etherington brothers Kickstarter for How to Think When You Draw, and they emailed me and said, look, you need to verify your purchase. And I went through the Kickstarter app on my phone, and it can't let you verify the purchase there. There's no way to do that. And I eventually went to the website, and you can do it from there. And the website goes, press this button, and they send a signal to your bank, and your bank then sends a signal to your phone, and then you get to verify. But that's a lot of steps. That's a lot of steps.
So it's a pain in the bum. It's a pain in the
Yeah,
bum, and
and
that will put people off.
to be honest, that was my second reminder. The first reminder came from Kickstarter itself, and I kind of went through the process through the Kickstarter app, and there was no way to do it in the Kickstarter app, so I gave up, and I thought I'll sort that out at some other point, and then forgot about it. And if I hadn't got that second reminder, it would have cancelled the backend. Not because I wanted to cancel the backend, but because the processes are just so involved
so convoluted. It's just not worth the hassle to get a book that I can't be asked now.
Well,
Money's a bit tight this month now.
It's not even like it was that much hassle. It's just things go out of your brain. You just don't. You kind of go. It's not like you're in a shop and you lift up a book and you walk out with it by accident and you go, oh, you haven't paid for that. It's more like, I don't know. You're sort of a notional book in a notional world, and you've said, yeah, I'll do. I think you promised to do something 9 months ago, and now that promise is due, and you've got one little reminder, and you're on the phone or something, you say it and you think, oh, I'll sort that out in a minute, and then you forget about it. It's just gone. It's gone from your head. No malevolence, no bad intention, no bad will, just literally you've forgotten about it. So
and again, we've said this, it's a Kickstarter is a pre-ordering service. It is. You're pre-ordering something for like 6, 12, 9. Again, that's why it's always good to have the comic ready. The only thing that I got scuppered on was with regards to the payout time by Kickstarter. So, but circling back to that, so like we did 3,700, so we lost a couple of £100 there. But also it says there's 5% for Kickstarter fees that they take from you, which is fine. Like, so you go in to think, oh, okay, I'm going to lose 5%, but then when you get paid out, there's actually another charge, which
3% or something.
there's a card. There's a swipe charge for like collecting payments, and they tell you about it, but you kind of forget about it, so you kind of get less. And I questioned it. So what I would say is whatever amount you want, be prepared to lose 10% of that. Yeah, absolutely 10%. And then like once you've priced up, your comics, which you have done, you can use like online printers, that kind of thing. So how much it's going to cost. Like then you need to start working out. Like I know it sounds really really anal, but you like work out your costs of like per envelope, per print, or if you're going to print the labels.
So one bit of advice I was given previously by a guy who's done a lot of Kickstarters on game stuff is that when you're doing extras, like just be aware that every time you touch an envelope, it costs you money. Every time you go near an envelope, you put 2 things in an envelope, it's more costly than putting 1 thing in an envelope. It's just suddenly things are just, if you decide you're going to do 5 things, if somebody's getting 3 prints and a badge and a token and another thing, then that's a lot of stuff in envelopes, and you multiply that up by the number of people. So 20, 60, 100 people getting that, and suddenly it's an exponential problem.
Why do you think my first couple of stretch goals were digital?
Yeah.
2 reasons. One for that, and 2 because a lot of people, especially over in the States, the postage is quite high, so they did a lot of digital backs, and I wanted to give them something a little bit extra as well. So that's why we did like the digital version of the comic, the black and white version, then we get done a song, that kind of thing. So everyone gets something extra. So I'm not just rewarding the people that are getting the paper comics.
Yeah.
And that because I know it sounds wrong. It's about customer service. It's about making sure that you're providing a good service. You're getting your books out in a timely fashion. Like I've got 6 more to ship. And the only reason I've got 6 more to ship is because 6 people haven't filled in their surveys for their addresses.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I've been getting up at silly o'clock in the morning, stuffing envelopes, printing off labels so I can get the books out. Because I was meant to do it before MCM, But Kickstarter, going back to the cost thing, they say allow up to 2 weeks for payment. And I
Yeah.
thought that's brilliant because that gives me like a 2 week window to get the comics printed and shipped before MCM. Because I didn't want to be one of them guys that was selling the comics that he just got
Yeah,
through
before it had
Kickstarter.
been shipped.
Yeah, because it makes
Yeah.
you look like a bit of a knob. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a knob, but for very different reasons. But what happened is Kickstarter took over 3 weeks to pay me.
Yeah.
I've sent out a message to him saying I'm really, really sorry. I didn't want to do this. Like it's going to be another couple of weeks, and it's purely because I was waiting to be paid out because the comic was finished. The comic was uploaded to
Was
the
that
printers.
Kickstarter's normal time frame you'd misjudged, or was it Kickstarter suddenly were wrong about when they were paying you,
They
or
were
had they
wrong.
been?
It says allow up to 2 weeks, and it was over
Yeah.
three. It was nearly, like I say, it was around 3 weeks, and just
Yeah.
that window. If you're, and that's
And
the thing
then
is, if you're making a promise.
Kickstarter penalizes you for not shipping on time, but yet will, yeah, okay.
I get that. I get that because obviously they want people that are going to be good and make sure their comics are getting
Yeah.
or whatever product is out
So,
to people. I
I
get
mean,
that.
what I'm reading from this is allow 10% of whatever target you are. You're like build your costs based on what you're going to do. Allow
Yeah.
add 10% to that to make sure that's your target, so that you can hit that amount of money. And if you're really good, if you're really on it, if you can afford to do it, have that money in the bank already so that you can actually pay for it. So that when the money comes in from Kickstarter, you're paying. It's essentially refunding you. It's not that you're essentially refunding yourself.
Well, because
That's kind of
Kickstarter were taking so long to pay me out. Bless her, Mrs. Garvey was so awesome. She was like, take the money out the savings, get them printed, and get them sent. Like that's how amazing my wife is. And I did, and literally 2 days later, Kickstarter paid me, and it went straight back into savings. But
yeah.
it meant I could get a foot on the run and ladder and go, right, do you know what, we're shipping these now because literally
Yeah.
I'd upload the files
It
to
makes
the
you it
printer.
makes you look bad when the process is them holding on to stuff. It makes you look bad, and
So
I
I
suppose people will kind of remember that sort of thing.
Exactly. It's bad customer service, and people don't get me wrong. People will talk about good customer service, but people talk a lot more about bad customer service. So
Mm.
every time someone sent me a message like, "Is my comic shipped?" That I've gone, "No, it's not shipped. It's going tomorrow. It's going tomorrow." Like I'd be giving them a realistic date, and that's the other thing I'd say is like if you're gonna say to people you're gonna ship in July, tell them you're gonna ship in August. Give yourself
Yeah.
that buffer because it's easier to promise
Under
little,
promise and
deliver.
over deliver. That's the
Exactly.
thing, isn't it? That's the key.
And they'll be like, "Oh wow, that came super early." It's like, "Well, I managed to get it done first. It's
Yeah.
ready." Like,
Yeah.
so that's the other thing that I would say is like,
So the other thing that I've kind of been thinking about and looking at is like I'm assuming I can gather up 150 people to pay for a
easy,
book. That's
easy.
the kind of top end. So what I've got to figure out is of that 150 people, how many of them can I convert from buying a book at £5, for example, and paying out, I don't know, 70 quid for something even fancier than a book, and because the more people I can convert to that, the less numbers I need to sell. So suddenly, if I can sell, for example, if I were doing, and this is the ideas I've been playing with. So I'm doing an anthology title, and I might be able to sell the original artwork. So say I can sell the original artwork for, I don't know, 100, 70 quid. Well, it's not Judge Dredd, so it's, I'm happy to do Dredd sketches. So there'd be a tier where I could do a Dredd sketch, right? So I would limit that in numbers, or I say Dredd sketch, it could be anything, but everyone will ask for a Dredd sketch. So there'd
Why
be
do
a
you
tier
George
where I
Dredd?
can,
Have you George Dredd?
sometimes,
I've dabbled.
or Chimsky. So there'd be like a tier where I could do that, where I'm pretty sure I could get 10 people to ask for a sketch along with the book, which means I could, put I'd say 30 quid there for that. That would be quite easy to meet. That means that's 300 quid already before I've even
It's
sold.
not though. It's not because you
Well,
need
less
to.
10%.
No, 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 not because of that. But you also need to add your time in to actually do them as well, and your time is money because you're a freelance. No, 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 no.
That's true. That's true.
And
That's
so
true.
you've got that, and my
Well, this
buddy,
is this is why the number limit. This is why
yeah.
this
But
is
the
why
o-
10 or 20 sketches and
and
not an infinite amount of them. You know.
But the other problem you're going to have as well is customers are awesome. I appreciate every single customer, but you are going to get some people that are going to be a little bit awkward and be
Yeah, I
unhappy
know
with
what you
what
mean.
you do,
Can I
and
have
that's the other thing. So it's kind of like it's a great option to do that, and it's another way to make a little bit of extra money. But it does come with money costs and hassle costs, and if that gets damaged, you're gonna have to do it again in the post. So
Yeah,
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 maybe,
yeah.
maybe if I can give you an idea, is why
Hmm.
don't you just do 10 Chimsky sketches now?
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
10 Jed sketches now and say these are up for rewards, so they're already done. So like you're not
yeah.
having to go, oh, I wanted Judge Dredd, but I wanted him on his Lawmaster, but I wanted him, punching Judge Definitely. Like,
That is a good idea, Matt, and I will absolutely take that on board. That is a solid. I might even record video of me doing it too, which is can be shumped into a Kickstarter video. Um,
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, that's
yeah.
that's how I would play that card with regards to rewards. Um, Pages are good, but again, you better make
I
sure
don't
that
think
they're.
I'd sell that many of them. I suspect five, maybe.
You'd
Yeah,
be surprised. I think the market for collecting artwork is growing, especially as your star is rightly so rising currently, which is amazing to see. But again, you need to make sure that they're packed super, super well and allow
I
for the
don't see.
postage
I
cost.
see far more stars crash into the ground than I see rise. But I'll take your point. Yeah, I mean, my experience is that dread pages and things like things with characters people understand or know sell quite well. Pages of they I think backers, if they know they're backing it and they know they're getting a page unique from the book, you're likely to sell a few to people with a bit of disposable income that are willing to help you
Mm.
more than kind of own a piece of that artwork. If that artwork were sight unseen, if they stumble into a gallery and they see one page from the book, they'll go, "That's nice," but they're not going to buy it. Whereas if they see it associated with the Kickstarter book and they know that money's helping to fund the Kickstarter, I think you're more likely to sell it. I think
Yeah.
that's
No,
my
no, it makes
feeling.
sense. It makes sense. That
Yeah,
makes sense. The other thing that you could do, and this is just me throwing an idea out there, I mean, you're very great at helping lift other creators up, which is always wonderful to see. It might be worth doing a tier where you can not sell, but like, there could be a tier where you do like, actually, I'm going to do 10 Zoom sessions with upcoming artists and we can go through like their portfolio review and I can give them some critical feedback and they get, an hour of your time or half an hour of your time, that kind of thing. That
oh,
might be something that you could do.
I'd rather do more sketches.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just throwing ideas out there.
In an hour, I could do what I could do 10 Judge Dredd heads in an hour. Like so, yeah, so it like that. That's in terms of. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I have done and do love doing portfolio reviews. And I think I've done lots and lots of them for free because I enjoy doing them, and I've always enjoyed doing them. But I'm conscious that I think that might be a top tier, and it might be limited to two or three.
Mm.
Only because but also there's a part of me feels bad taking money away from
Really
artists.
doing something that you do. Yeah, no, no, I understand that. I'm just throwing out another idea that you could do.
Yeah,
Is you can do a digital version. You can do an add-on reward. Is you could do a sketchbook,
yeah.
small A5 sketchbook, because you've got sketches like you were awesome enough to do one for the Voodoo Cowboy Kickstart like this. Um,
I did.
you did that. But what you could do is you could do like a little A5 book of like another 20 sketches, black and white, do a digital version to give away as a reward, and for the first 20 people that back the Kickstarter, early bird special, get this one-time thing,
Hmm.
numbered, signed, with a Judge Dredd sketching that you can do beforehand, and charge an extra 10 quid for it or whatever it is, 20 quid for it, and it helps build on that income.
So in terms of like I picture there are two things I think when you're trying to get money in. One of them is the rewards, which is a digital copy of the book. I don't know, $1, a pound, whatever.
Two
Um,
pound I did it for. I did
two
it for two
pound,
pound.
£2.
Yeah.
A hard copy, fiver is what I kind of think would be
Yeah. Yeah.
reasonable. And then you go up into something with a print, maybe I don't know, £15, something like that for something with a print. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I skip that, but something that's £30, which is a sketch, and then £100, which is a drawing. Maybe something more, which is the Zoom thing idea. Maybe, but that gives you steps. That gives you reasonable steps. So there's if someone's got 50 quid to burn, there's a step for them. And if they've got like £10 to burn, there's a step for them. And if they've only got a couple of quid, I'll have that. I'll take that couple of quid. If that's all you've got, that's cool. So there's that aspect of it. But then there's also the kind of reward tiers whenever you meet certain targets.
The stretch goals, We'll get to the stretch goals back in a second, but let's look back to your actual reward tiers. What I also think you should do is, you're an artist, you've got a few artist buddies. I'm assuming you know a few good people.
None of them talk to me.
Get one of them to do a variant cover.
Yeah.
Because and this is why I think people fall short. Is like they'll get someone to do a variant cover and they'll charge more for it. Charge it at the same price, because a lot of people that backed the Voodoo Kickstarter campaign got both covers,
right,
instead of the one. So you double, they double.
Yeah.
So that works really well. But if you keep it at the same price as the £5, is you're not going, well, you can have my one, which is £5, or you can have whoever artist there, and that's going to be £10. Like, it's like, well, I'll just get the £5 one. But if you're going, you know what, you can get two for £10, they're priced to sell. They're priced to move.
Yeah.
So I would have a think about that, because that worked really, really well.
Complexity there in terms of, I mean, number one, I'd have to pay any artist, but I mean, I know enough artists that it's not a big deal. Number two would be how do you, the physical process of doing that? Like, I understand going to a printer and saying, print me this book, and here's the, there's the cover and there's the cover art, print me this book, and I'm going to need 500 copies. But with a variant cover, it's not as straightforward. I mean, I'm sure a printer can talk me through that process and can go, look, here's how you do it. You only need to print 10 copies of that, and we'll attach them. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Dude, it depends what printer you use, but I use an online printer. All I did was I created the PDFs. I created the PDF with one cover. I created the PDF with the other cover, and I just uploaded them, and then I put in how many of each I needed.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. Don't let it scare you. Don't process.
Well, I mean, because I suppose this depends on the printer, but like, if you're doing a print on demand service where every copy costs more or less the same, it's different than if you're doing a traditional print where the more copies you're getting, the cheaper it becomes.
It only really becomes really, really cheaper is if you're printing like well over 1,000. Because that's when it goes LIFO printing. That's when it gets like you save like an extra 20 odd percent. If you wanted to be able to do 500, like is this going to be black and white or color? Do you think
black and white?
Black and white. Okay, so you're probably talking about £1.20 maximum to print a book. You should be paying more than that. So that's doable. So like, if you say, do you know what, and even limit it, you can go, do you know what, you've got your cover, which is unlimited to how many people back the book, and then I've got this other reward tier where you can get both, and that's limited to 100. So you're only going to print 100 of them. So it's another £100. And for that extra £100, for the cost of the two books for £2, because again they're both black and white copies. Comics, so the covers are colour. So people are paying £10, and your only cost is £2. You're making £8.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. It does make the pre-costing a bit more difficult, though, doesn't it? Because you're sort of going, I want it. Well, I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? If you're costing for 500 and you get, I don't know, 30 of one and 60 of the other, then it doesn't really matter then, because you're still doing per costing. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we can do this offline. We'll go. I'll show you how the digital process. It's very, very simple. It's
I mean, it's a thing to think about. It's a thing to consider. I think.
Yeah.
What about like 20-page comic, and then if you hit a certain tier, we'll include a new strip in this book. Everyone gets this new strip. Do you think that's a benefit to get people up, or does that not make the difference that you'd like it to make?
See, this is how I feel about reward tiers, and this is me being really, really weird. As a customer as a Kickstarter customer, I'm not really fussed about reward tiers. Oh, I'm going to get a print. I'm not a print guy. Some people love them. Some people love like a badge.
Yeah.
That, for me personally, that's not a thing. So what I try to do with my rewards is like a couple of digital rewards, because one, there's no shipping cost to them, and it's nice to give something back. And we did a black and white version of what do you call it, Voodoo Cowboy with I put the script in. so people could have a
Hmm.
digital version and the script, and then they're going to get the color one, so they can kind of see the
Yeah,
step
yeah,
process of making the comic.
yeah,
I thought that was really nice. And I got a musical buddy to do a theme tune for the book as well. I thought that worked really, really well. And then we did your print, and then I didn't do any
hmm,
others because I thought, you know what, it's all stuff to add, and it kind of makes it more complicated with the postage. Like you said, the more stuff you
yeah.
start putting into the envelopes, it's going to push it up, and that's what I kind of wanted to avoid.
As a
Because
comic creator, here's the way I would like the reward tiers to work. Hey, great news! We get to, I don't know, £500. Then the comic gets printed. We get to £1,000. I get to pay me £500 for doing the comic. We get we get the £5,000. The comic gets printed for £500, and I get to keep £4,500. So, and at that point, I've paid myself my page rate. That's the
and that's
so
and that's the
thanks.
way you need to look at it. Like again, you've got your head screwed on because you're thinking it as a business, and it needs to be thought as a business because a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm going to get my Kickstarter. I'm going to earn 4 grand. It's going to cost me a grand or whatever for printing and stuff like that. Then I've got 2 grand to pay an artist." And yes, that's great if it works, but you kind of need to build up to that. It's not a given that it's going to come straight out and do that. So no, you
You
need to
need, I
earn.
think, I feel like what you need to have is a kind of, what if this fails? What if this achieves exactly its goal? And what if this is a rip roaring success? But the rip roaring success goes well. Obviously, then you'll do another one, another one, another one. But they kind of, what if it fails? But you still want it. Like I want to make a book because I think it'd be fun to do. I want to have a book in my hands. I want to write my own stories. I mean, I've sent you a story. You haven't looked at it yet.
I haven't
Uh,
had a chance. Apologies.
that's
I saw
fine.
it
That's
today in
okay.
my emails. I was like, oh, another.
Fine.
I've got to
Fine.
rewrite. I've got to rewrite another one of PJ's stories and not
Fine.
get credit for it. Um,
I very dare you. Like, so I've sold one story to 2000 AD, and I thought, well, I've got like a half dozen
ghostwriter.
more.
So
I've got half a dozen more story ideas, and I could try and pitch them 2000 AD, but that's always a slightly scary process. I mean, it's good because you do kind of, you go through the process of that's not let's rework this a bit, and you're aiming higher, and so you achieve slightly higher, and then you draw it. But you definitely don't own it anymore. It's not mine anymore. It's not my story anymore. It's
well, that's the
2000 ADs.
thing. That's the thing. I adding an extra strip in there, I think would be a nice reward. But then you kind of got to factor in the pay your page rate for doing it, and obviously the weight, that kind of thing. I
Yeah, no,
think
it's not. It's not. I think I feel like it's a kind of. I mean, it's a nice reward, but I do feel like when people have committed to spending the money already, all the rewards don't really have an impact on them. They've committed to spending the money. The money, that money is spent.
if anything, like, it's gonna sound really bizarre saying it out loud, but like the reward tiers are actually rewarding the people that have already backed it rather than the people that have already like
Yeah,
the new
yeah.
ones. And it's like, but they've already backed it, so they're already on board. They are
There is,
they're
I
behind you.
suppose there is a kind of way of looking at it where it's like, oh, I'm not going to back that until it hits those reward tiers. And I mean, I don't think people think like that, but it's a possibility somebody is
No,
thinking like that. But
I don't think people do. So,
yeah,
what, and this is the other thing you've got to think about the fulfillment process. It is a
yeah,
pain in the bum to pack 150. Like I did it like what for 300 odd envelopes and going to the
yeah,
post office. It's a pain in the bum. So when you start adding all these extra, it becomes like a process.
yeah.
So I, do me a favor, just keep it simple. Like do your regular cover, do a variant cover, do a sketchbook if you want that as an extra add-on, like for the first
Yeah.
people that first 50 people, and then do like a sketch one. Then you're done. Just keep it
How do
simple.
you feel like how do you feel about the idea of a book that so 20 like 20 I feel like asking a fiver for 20 pages is on the cusp of being a little bit cheeky.
I'd say
So
24. If you're going to charge five, I'd say 24 pages.
right, so if I take the 4 extra pages and put in, you know, sketches or things like that, or little snippets of scripts, things like that, that kind of making of, do you feel that's the sort of thing that Kickstarter readers like more than normal comic readers? Like I would imagine, I know you've sold your books on Kickstarter and you've sold them directly to an audience at MCM. The question is, are they different audiences? Are they
Good question, because the Kickstarter did affect the amount of sales that I made at the Comic Con. Because
okay?
people are so awesome that they know me from like Twitter and stuff like that, and back the Kickstarter. So when they saw me at Comic Con, they already had the comics. They didn't buy the comic.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that
Okay.
does have an impact, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to print, so many hundred of these comics, then I'm going to go to Thought Bubble and I'm going to sell it. And I don't realize
I've
that
sold a
people at Thought
thousand
Bubble,
Kickstarter, so I must be able to sell another 10,000. It's like,
and
no, that's your audience.
yeah,
Your audience is
and
bought the
bless them,
comic.
all those awesome people that go to Thought Bubble, like, no, I back the Kickstarter. I've actually come to pick up my comics now. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, so that does, like, I would say, allow
Suppose
for losing.
that's your one chance to sell the alternative cover if they only bought the first cover.
Well, there is that. There is that as well. Or hopefully, again, this is what, like, it's always, this is how I work at Comic Cons. Is like, I've got loads of different comics, and we all know that comics take a long time
Mm,
to make. So what happens is I will have people that come to the shows and go, "Oh, have you got the next issue of that?" No, but I've got these two new comics, and they buy the new ones because they
yeah.
like my writing, they like me as a person or whatever like that. So they support me, that kind of thing. So even if I don't have the next issue of the comic that they want, they know the quality that is there, so they book them. So again, that's another way of me building my support and my
Mm,
readership, and that's why I want to do like the different kickstarts for different comics. Again, to build those pillars, build that readerships up on those specific comics. So when I've got another new one, hopefully there will be some more crossover, and I can help self fund the comic making process. So
mm.
that's how I'm thinking about it. Yeah, doing a Kickstarter does affect the amount of sales that you get. But then you get some people. I had some people at MCM were great, and they were like, brutally honest, like, Matt, was going to back the Kickstarter, but I knew I was going to see it at the Comic Con. Anyway, what was the next question? Let's get.
So right, so going back to, I mean, you've been building up your readership over time, and your last one was at 350, 340. What was I mean, have you seen that readership slowly rise? Have you noticed certain moments where there's been a flood of new people that you haven't seen before? I mean, what has been the build up? How do you build that number?
I've been selling my comics, like COVID notwithstanding. I've been doing Comic Cons and putting my own comics out for about 7 years,
Mm,
and it was starting to get higher. Then it really dipped for various reasons. And that was one of the reasons why I started the YouTube channel and wanted to Kickstarter, because I wanted to help build my readership back up again. Because again, you can't rely on Twitter to do
no.
that. You have to look at that is like relying on Twitter to fund your Kickstarter campaign is literally putting all your eggs in one basket.
Mm,
And there are audiences out there that I'm not connected to. Do you know what? I'll spend my time making YouTube channels, YouTube videos, helping people. Those people will support me, which they have done, and I'm grateful for. I'll do the Kickstarter. I'm finding a new audience of people that I don't know anymore. If I can provide them, a good quality service and give them a really good, decent comic, they're going to come back and support me. So and as well as Twitter. So and at Comic Con. So I'm kind of pulling from all these kind of different directions to build up my region.
mm.
There's a theory. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called the 1,000 rule. Like if you can
Yeah,
get
yeah.
1,000 supporters, like
True
hard,
fans.
not hardcore, but like, yeah, true fans, true supporters that they are,
Yeah,
like, you can do
you
anything.
can make it
Like,
work.
yeah, yeah, exactly. For email, like, so that's the goal. It's like to get to 1,000 supporters. So if I can, that was 370 for the first Kickstarter. If I can hit that same amount on the second one, and so like if I can grow like 10-15%
Yeah.
each time, it's building. As long as it's going in the right direction. The problem, what you'll do have, and this is what I've noticed with people when they've run Kickstarters, like the follow-up books, is they think, oh, just because I sold 1,000 copies of issue one, well, I'm going to sell more of issue two because people are going to be buying issue one and issue two. And like, you can't take it personally, but some people just won't like your comic.
Hmm.
Like, it won't resonate with them. They're like, "Do you know what? I'm glad I backed it, because I've helped it, but I don't. It's not for me. I won't, back
Yeah,
it in
here's the
anymore." That
thing.
kind of thing.
This book would be stuff I'm writing myself. I know people like my artwork. I don't know if they like my writing.
You're a good writer. You're a good writer. I mean, you don't get me wrong. You need a lot of help. Um,
That's confidence. The weird thing is, like, I posted this on Twitter the other day. It's like, if I saw a tweet, and the tweet was essentially complete, and it's, and I've done this before. I did this with John Rappian for a year. I could take a single tweet and turn it into a comic. I like it almost intuitively, without thinking about it. I could take the text from a tweet, turn it into a comic. I can write tweets. I can tell a story in a tweet. I can tell a joke in a setting. I can, I can do all of that. but for some reason, when it comes to writing a story, my brain just kind of freezes a little bit. I can mull over a plot, and then when it comes to kind of dialogue, I'm like going, ah. Whereas for drawing, I can intuitively go, no, I'll show you how to do this, and lay out a story. Like, it is the easiest thing in the world for me. It's like, it's water off a duck's back. It is so simple, but for some reason the writing isn't. And I want to get to the writing to the same state. I want to get to the point where it doesn't have to be good. I'm not saying as an artist I'm amazing or anything. What I am saying is that I'm so comfortable with drawing that it is a very easy process to tell a story with drawing, with pictures. And I want to get to the same state in writing. But for some reason, the writing, I hit mental blocks and go, I have no confidence in what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. Is this right? I don't know. Drawing, I
You
think, is
are
easier
a
because,
good writer.
well,
And
but the
again, if I can write a comic, anyone can, even you.
you are a good writer, by the way. I could
No,
be crap. I'm
no,
telling
you're
you.
not. Let's stop patting each
I'm
other
not.
on the back.
I'm not trying to fish for compliments. Honestly, I'm not
No,
trying to fish. I am kind of. I am saying though that the fluidity of drawing I have and I'm comfortable with, and I love
because
that.
you've done it for so long, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
human
yeah,
nature to you. Writing is
yeah.
alien to you because you've not done it, and it comes with time. And,
Yeah.
and I say this on the channel all the time. Writing a comic is one of the easiest things to do, purely because it is very formulaic. It really is.
Mm,
All you need is that idea, and you have that idea. Once you've got the idea and you've been mulling over the plot, it's just the hardest part is getting the story out. So just get it out however you can, whether it be by post-it notes or bullet points, that kind of thing. So that's your
yeah.
plot, and then just write. Like, and the thing is, like, art, so you know how many panels you should be putting on a page. You
Mm,
know how to do a an angle for like a certain thing or like what you're trying to convey that game. So you've got that, and if you can and have been doing stories with a beginning, middle, and end in 4 pages, that's a scene. Put 5 of them together. That's a comic. It's when it's the people that I see when they're first starting out. They'll do like a 1 page scene, 1 page scene, 8 page scene, 9 page scene, and they don't understand pacing, that kind of thing. You've got the pace, you've got the talent, and you know what you're doing. So stop beating yourself up, and I will always be there to rewrite your stories for you.
eventually, eventually.
Gonna keep saying it. So no, I think you should definitely do this. I think if you did a Kickstarter, I think you'd absolutely crush it. But like I said, with regards to the figures, you need to put in what you need and not what you want, because then it's
Yeah,
always going to be a success. And don't get me wrong, like doing my Kickstarter, I'd love to go. Do you know what, my goal is 10 grand. I know
yeah,
realistically I'm not going to get put in a realistic figure that do you know what, I can print 500, then I can sell them at Comic Cons, I can sell them through comic shops and that kind of thing, and that's going to help fund me doing more. But then you've
yeah,
actually got to actually bloody do it. That's the problem. And I don't mean like putting the comic together. I mean like the campaign. The campaign is a
yeah.
marathon. And what I mean by this is, like, yeah, you need to have your page done and dusted before you even like a month or so before you started your campaign. You need to start teasing it like 2 months before. And you could have the best comic in the world, which it will be because you're an amazing artist, amazing writer. But but if your thumbnail and your title on the Kickstarter page is pants, no one's going to click on it.
Yeah.
That's the key. Same as YouTube, it's the same as tweets, that kind of thing. And people always have that as an afterthought. Now, with Voodoo Cowboy, the thumbnail that I had two, and I swapped them out. Because as people scroll, one might not resonate with them. So after every week, I swapped it out for a different one, then I swapped it back, and just
Yeah.
so people would see it differently. It's these little things that I was helping to make sure I got an extra 5 or 6 people a day. Because normally, what happens is Kickstarter start, and then they stagnate, and then they kind of go up at the end. Mine was a slow going up. So
Yeah.
these are things that you need to think about. Is like, okay, so your title, people are going to read it on their phones, that kind of thing. You want them to back it, but the thumbnail is so important, really
Mm,
important. Like the title needs to be big, bold, so people can read it, and that picture needs to like grab people's attention.
mm. All right then. All right. Things to think about, Matt. Thank you very much.
And you need a video, and you need a video
You definitely
inside
need
your page, and it mustn't be longer than a minute.
a
Yeah, no, I'm
You mean
genuinely serious
longer?
because,
It mustn't be longer than an hour. Maybe I would cope with
well,
that,
we've
but a
we've been-
minute?
we've been chatting for an hour, and the reason why that is because people's attention spans is so small. Like when you
Yeah,
do a video, don't start going. Well, my name's PJ Holden. I've done this. I've worked with this. Oh, and now like goes on for like 3 or 4 minutes. Just go. My name is PJ Holden. I am a 2000 AD DC artist. This is my new anthology. It's about this. Show some pages. and then that's it.
Get in,
That's
get
all
out.
you need.
Man, I have
Absolutely.
like you know this. I have a very short attention span. I won't do a video longer than a minute. I refuse. I might talk for a long time, but even then, my attention span is kapooey.
I bet I stopped listening to you before you did, so don't even worry about it. Has this been helpful?
Yes, of course it
Oh,
has. It's been
you'll be
good.
getting my bill soon. Is there anything else you want to know about my
No, there's a
learning
couple of people. I
from
think
my mistakes?
there was a couple of people asked on Twitter there, but I think they're generally things we've covered anyway. Any advice regarding first timers would be yes. I think we've covered that really.
Yeah.
Any tips would much appreciated. But I think this is from someone who's already doing a Kickstarter and wants to know what wants us to back it. But any tips would be much appreciated. We're halfway to go on 3 Panel Horror, which is their Kickstarter. And so I mean I don't know if there's any like at that, as you say, it's a marathon. So yeah, so I mean the question is, are you better planning like a Kickstarter campaign is what, 30 days or something, 25 days?
You can set it for however long you want.
Okay,
30
so what's
days
a good like?
is 30 days. 30 days. So New Art Monkey MG, Matt, I think your name is because we've spoken many, many times on Twitter. What
Yeah,
I'd say to you is change the thumbnail, dude. It's black and
yeah,
white. 3 panel. I get it's a 3 panel horror. Make the blood on it red, just so something catches the eye. I think, don't get me
mm,
wrong, it's a nice thumbnail. It just needs to be more striking. It needs to grab people's attention. That's what I'd say. Yeah, Matt. Yeah,
yeah. So
that's what
yeah,
I'd
what I
say.
was going to say, is it a smart idea to have a campaign of war? A kind of, here are the things that are going to happen through every day of this campaign as I go, and like day one I'll do this, day two I'll do this, day three, day four, or would you be better going like day one, midway point, end point? These are the 3 periods you've got to look at and worry about, and here's things to do. I mean, it's kind of what is the plan of attack on something like a Kickstarter? Is it better having a really detailed broken down plan, which you're not likely to do because you're going to fall at points, you're going to be winded, you're going to think, I was expecting 20 people at this point but only got 3, so I'm lost now, I'm done? Or would you be better going, no, let's make it as fluid as possible?
Okay, so from my point of view, my goal was to get funded within 2 days. I think
Hmm.
if you're funded within
Two
two
days,
days,
right?
it takes the pressure off you
Yeah.
to scramble around at the end of the campaign to get the money, and because that's what happened on my first one that failed, and that really affected, like, because you're constantly
Yeah.
chasing, and that's not what you want to do. So I would say have a figure that you need and go to smash that goal within the first 24 to 48 hours. Again, we did it in 3, I was blown away. But the other thing I'd say, you're talking about plan of attack, is you need to work out a reason to tweet about it and mention it every single day.
Hmm.
You need to think about that. You need to have a reason. So, with regards to stretch goals and figures, so like again, great example is like our figure was 500 quid. The reason why I wanted 500 quid was I explained for earlier, but that means that every time like I got to 1,000, it's like we're 200% funded. Got to 150, 1,500, we're 300%. It was a reason to go, we're being a
Yeah.
success. Like, and people like to see success stories, and people like
Yeah.
to help you get to. So if you can say, "Oh, we're literally one back away from 400% funding," people will read and go, "I want to help them get to 400. I'm going to back it
Mhm.
now." So it's that reason for people to actually get
Yeah,
on.
so the trick is to try and get so that, I mean, funding within the 2 or 3 days really is about making sure you're asking for an amount of money that will get you across the line and no more. Like, no, don't be greedy at that point. Just
Don't be
just
greedy.
make sure you figured out how much it's going to cost you to do the bloody thing, which will presumably, does that include postage costs, or is postage costs added after the fact? I can never remember.
No, well, the 3.7 that we got included the postage, so there was like
Okay.
1,100 quid. Like
So
my post.
you need to go down to the post office with a package that looks like what you're going to do, and you need to weigh it up and make sure you know what the costs are
It's
internationally.
it's it's very easy to do at home. If you're in the UK, the Royal Mail website is very, very good. You you're a man of the world. You must have scales in the house. What you do is you go buy yourself envelopes, cardboard.
Hmm.
You get a comic, one of your comics or something similar, stick it in, weigh it. That's
All
what it
right,
is.
no, yeah.
Go onto the Royal Mail website or whatever postage website you are and put in. Okay, so in the UK that's going to cost me £1.80 to post, but then you got to factor in, say, the cost of the envelope, which is like 30p. Plastic bags, put the comic in, which is another like 10, 15p. To print the label, it's another 20p. So then, okay, it comes to £3 for postage or £3.50 postage. And that's the other thing. With Kickstarter, you can't do half numbers, so you can't do £3.50 to back a Kickstarter. It's got to be
Right.
a whole. It's got to be a whole number. So yeah. So work out your costs.
And then the Kickstarter for that. So is that when you go, right, I'm going to have that, do they then go, then your postage now, where are you? And then they add that onto the postage afterwards, or is that included in that price?
No, so like we were £4 for the actual comic, and then when they go through and select where they are in the world, it gave them the postage option.
Okay.
And again,
And
this
then
probably turns a lot of people off
you want
because of where they are in the States. But that
yeah,
extra money you don't have to allow for in the actual making of the comic. You just have to
yeah.
make sure that your postage costs include cost of the envelopes, cost of the paper to print labels, that and
Okay.
all that kind of stuff, all that jazz. Yeah.
And do you also include 10% because Twitter are going to take 10% of that cost then as well? So you've got to make sure you're overestimating rather than underestimating.
Yeah, and again, you can't put half cost in,
Yeah.
half pounds, okay, which makes it
Or a
very very
fractional
awkward.
amount,
Fraction,
essentially, like any fractional amount. So £3, 10p is no use. So you're better going for £4, which is going to be more than you need. But
but then it might turn people off because like, well, they're paying like, why am I paying £4 for a
I
comic to
see
be
you got
posted?
yeah. So you got to be
So
prepared to
you
put
have to weigh
a
up.
little bit of that.
So I lost a little bit on international orders. I lost like 30p, but I kind of recouped it from the UK costs because of the difference.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like it's playing around, it's weighing stuff up on the website, and finding out the best way to get stuff shipped. So, for example, if you're shipping overseas, Royal Mail do international economy and international standard. Now, economy is cheaper, but it could take up to 12 weeks to get there.
yeah,
Standard takes 2 weeks.
yeah,
So you want to go for that. So then obviously, and then you've got to work out all the customs information. But there
yeah.
are ways to get around the customs information.
Okay, and I mean, you're mostly individual comics. Hardbacks are going to weigh more and so on. You don't find any kind of are your comics American size? Are they A4 size? What size?
My comics are all American sized. Was it
Okay.
176 by 266? That's when I get the art, like 170 by 260. But what I had with regards to my reward tiers is people could have add-ons, so they could buy a copy of the Ether, a copy of Transfer and stuff like that as well. So then I had to include that cost into the postage and that kind of thing. So
Yeah,
it was getting a little bit more complicated, and that's one of the reasons why it took me a while to get them all posted because the Kickstarter website is really, really good. It gives you like a backer report, like an Excel spreadsheet. And what you
yeah.
can do is you can upload that into the Royal Mail website. So it will work out, oh, that's their name, that's their address, that kind of thing. So you don't have to put them
Okay.
in one by one.
Yeah,
But if people are buying, like, okay, so I've got an extra copy of Voodoo Cowboy, I've got the Devil in Disguise, trade. I had to do them all separately because they were all individual weights. So it made my
yeah.
job a lot harder. But meant I made more because people were getting more add-ons, especially over in the States, because I think, do you know what, if I'm going to pay like £6 postage, why don't I just pay 8 and I can get another 3 comics from that? Because I know him from
Yeah,
Twitter. So like, I'll get a couple more because now's the prime opportunity to do it. So it's all these kind of things that you need to work. And the problem with Kickstarter is they give you information, but how they give it is not in the most friendly way. I think they would benefit from doing some like how-to videos of like how to use the service
yeah,
because it's all about setting the pages up and that kind of thing. Because they don't kind of prepare you for the after, like how this is how you use
yeah,
their fulfillment service. This is how they use the fulfillment part on the website. This is how you draw down a backer report. This is how you
yeah.
export it and stuff like that. That's not really there, and I found that quite hard. So I learned the hard way. So.
Mm, okay. All right. Well, that's loads. You've absolutely talked me out of doing a Kickstarter. I know we haven't. Not at all. Not at all. No, that's
You'd,
brilliant, Matt.
you'll
Thank you very
crush it.
much.
You'll crush it, dude. I
Yeah.
seriously like. Again, it's same as running. Like
Well,
if I can do it, anyone can. It really
I
is
think
like
I
it's
think
just
we're
effort.
looking.
It's just effort.
Yeah, I think we're looking at about a year away before I'm anywhere near. I mean, I've got one story written, which you have. I'm writing another story. That's 8 pages, so I just need to fill in another 12 or 14 pages to get to 22 pages of a comic.
Why are you wasting time talking to me? Then you should be writing.
I know I'm away. I'm away. All right, that's great. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Hopefully you found it interesting. I will see you in the next video. And PJ is always a pleasure, never a chore.
You're
But
such a
seriously,
liar.
I am. I am. Anyway.